The Frecciarossa is the brand of the high-speed trains of the state-owned railway company of Italy, Trenitalia. These trains do also operate in France, even for domestic routes. Today we'll be traveling on board of the Frecciarossa 1000 train in France, on the oldest high-speed line in Europe, between Paris and Lyon. What it's like to travel on board of these trains within France. We're all about to find out in this video. Join me on board of this Frecciarossa train on a domestic route here in France, from Paris, the capital of France, to Lyon, along the oldest high-speed railway line in Europe. For now, let's get this video on the track and let's roll the intro. Today's journey starts at a very early morning in Paris. As a matter of fact, the streets were pretty much empty over here. I stayed at a hotel near Paris Gare de Lyon railway station, where my train departs from today. From Paris Gare de Lyon railway station you will find trains to Switzerland, Italy, Spain and obviously many places within France. This time I won't be featuring this railway station. I recently published a video where I did this on the route from Paris to Nice on a TGV in Wii high-speed train. I'll link that video in the description of this video. And Paris Gare de Lyon railway station is really a nice railway station. You find the restaurant Le Train Bleu, what is absolutely mesmerizing. And for example, at the Hall de Fresque you find lots of amazing artworks. Today our train departed from hall number 1. You basically find different halls at this railway station. And hall number 1 is the oldest concourse of this railway station. At the side in hall number 1 there's also a ticket counter for Trenitalia, for the Frecciarossa trains within France, but also to Italy. I think also train tickets within Italy can be bought over here. But my personal favorite website to book train tickets both in Italy and in France is trainline.eu. I'll link it in the description of this video. I partially think it's great to see some competition in France, but on the other hand, I have very mixed feelings about this. I'll get back to this later on in the video. Information about both departing and arriving trains have been given crystal clear at several screens at this railway station, and some of these screens are very big, as you just saw. Apart from a ticket counter, Trenitalia also has several vending machines within this railway station. They really have good infrastructure. Also their online infrastructure is good, but once again Trainline is better for booking train tickets. I'll tell you why later on in this video. For most railway stations, and then especially the railway station where you find the long distance trains in France, you will find access gates. You have to put the QR code of your ticket on a display and that will read the QR code. And after that the gates will open. At the moment you go through the gates, it will be listed in what carriage and what seat number you have, just as a friendly reminder. And what is absolutely great about this, and yes, I'm starting to do a competition with the SNCF, the information for this train is not only in French. I mean, it's just the carriage number and your seat number, so it's not that special what will be displayed on these screens. But this is also given in English and also Italian. Although Italian doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because we're still traveling on a domestic train within France. But yeah, okay, the operator is Italian. The Frecciarossa trains you can find in France, or the Frecciarossa 1000 trains. This is the flagship of the state-owned railway company of Italy, once again Trenitalia. These trains do have a top speed of 360 km per hour, although in regular service they will only go 300 km per hour. And they do have a total capacity of 457 passengers. These trains do come in 5 different comfort categories and do have 8 coaches. The coaches 5, 6 and 7 do host the standard class, and this is basically second class. I'll show you how it is from the inside later on in the video. Coach number 4 hosts the premium class, and this is also something like second class, but then slightly better. Coach number 3 will host business class and also a bistro. Coach number 2 will host business class as well. And then you find coach number 1, where you will find executive class, and this is really next level luxury. At the entrance doors, the class numbers have been mentioned, like standard classes you can see here for example. Something else you find at the entrance doors are digital screens, and these screens will host a carriage number and also what rows can be entered if you take that entrance door. So you know if it's easier to enter the carriage from one side or the other side, and this basically to avoid congestion within the train. If a lot of people enter this train, it might be busy, and especially in the lower classes where you basically find more seats. Apart from that, something like this is also written on these doors as well. As far as I know, these displays can also host route information, so the final destination, the train number, etc. However, because you already went through the gates, well, you can't go wrong on that, most likely. Today I was traveling in business class, what wasn't that much pricier than standard class. And it's also just easier to film because there's a little bit more space to move around. Also, basic facilities like for example the accessible area have been mentioned at these doors as well. And even though this has been mentioned, as you just saw, these are not accessible trains. So if you are traveling in a wheelchair for example, you basically need to ask for assistance. This here is the business class and I was traveling right over here. This is my seat for today. Before we discover the train, let me interrupt you shortly. I hope you like this video so far. If you do so or if it's a helpful video to you, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you'd like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is cross-bordering and long-distance traveling, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. For now, let's discover this train. And for this, we'll start off in the standard class. Simply because if you're traveling with these trains, you most likely were traveling standard class as well. Simply because you find the biggest capacity over here. In general, I'm traveling in standard or second class, simply because, well, it's more affordable and I can make more videos. But, well, if I'm traveling alone, first class might be a bit easier, because it's easier to move around. And for this specific journey, the business class was not even that pricier compared to standard class. Anyway, standard class comes in a 2x2 layout, so 2 seats on both sides of the aisle. The majority of the seats are bay seats, so seats facing each other, and in that situation you find a table you can fold out between the seats, and right within this table you find a litter bin as well. All windows do have a sunscreen and power sockets are located right between the seats. Seat numbers are located right under the luggage racks, and you find luggage racks all over the train. Apart from that, between the back ends of the seats, at the moment seats do face each other, you find a big spot for luggage as well. I see a lot of people forget about this. This doesn't count only for this train, but in general. This here are the airline style seats, and the amount of legroom is really generous. You find a sturdy fold-out table in the seat in front and a litter bin between the seats. Also, power sockets are located right at the seats over here as well, in the middle. Within standard or second class, there's also an area that's marked as the silence area, and that's over here. This has been marked on both the compartment doors, but it's also listed on the headrests, so you basically can't miss it. Still, I really love to see some more seats that do come in an airline style composition or long distance bus seat composition. But, well, this is my personal preference. In Spain you'll find, for example, the Aero trains that are in many ways like these trains. However, over there you will find more airline style seats. Screens at the ceiling throughout the train in all classes do host route information. Then you'll find one class higher, in coach 4 you find the premium class. This still comes in a 2x2 layout. However, you have slightly more leg room and these seats can be adjusted. In the great picture this is basically the same. The amount of legroom is maybe a bit better than in the standard class, but majority of the seats, they are facing each other. The tables are basically the same, you have the same amount of power sockets. It's just that the comfort level is a little bit better. Apart from the comfort level, also the service level is higher on board of this class. What I understood from the Trenitalia website is that on most routes a welcome drink and a snack is included if you're traveling in this class. It's not an every day of the week though. However, no need to worry, because on board with this train you also find a dining car. Well, a dining car, it's basically a kind of a cafeteria. It's not really a place where you can have a nice sit and drink and just enjoy your food. It's more a place where you can stand, eat and drink, or just take it away. A nice place to go to stretch your legs a little bit. Also, lots of trolley services are available on board of this train. Business class, where I was traveling on, comes with something extra I'll show you in a bit. But if you're traveling on the standard class, on most routes I experienced with the Frecciarossa train, there is a trolley service that will visit you during the route. By the way, directions within this train, so what facilities can be found where and what carriages are into what directions, this has all been marked crystal clear at the doors between the compartments. Within the same carriages where you will find the dining car, you also find the bigger accessible toilet, and this toilet can also be used as a diaper changing facility if you're traveling with a little baby, as you can see over here. Obviously, this toilet is more spacious and you find some more support bars. Let it be no surprise that close to this area, you also find the accessible area within this train, and this is in the business class. Here you have way more space to put a wheelchair, for example. And even though the facilities for people traveling in a wheelchair are good, at least I think so, I don't have this experience, there is a limited number of wheelchairs that can go on board of this train, so keep this in mind. And obviously you need to reserve a wheelchair spot at the moment you're traveling in a wheelchair. Now let's move on to the regular toilets. You find a lot within these trains, and these toilets are still pretty good. And surprise, surprise, you can also use this as a diaper changing facility if you're traveling with a little kid. What I really like about Italian trains, at least the toilets, is that the toilet seats will pop up automatically. This really prevents the toilet seats from getting really dirty for people who don't know how to hit that target that well. For now, let's move on to the second highest class on board of this train. What is business class? I was also traveling over here, and this comes basically in a composition you can find in classical European first class trains, in a 2x1 layout. Typically for Italian trains, most seats are bay seats, so seats opposite from each other, and well, like I already mentioned, I'm not a big fan of this. These litter bins are quite tiny actually, but there are also litter bins at the vestibules. These tables here are a bit bigger and the seats are more comfortable. This is just all a bit better. You have more space in general. Also for your luggage, the seats are wider, more comfortable, and there's also more service available if you're traveling in business class. In business class you also find dedicated zones, like a quiet zone, a zone where you can talk, etc. What I really like about the business class area is that you have a kind of compartments. As you can see here on the left, they have some windows covering these bay seats, what basically creates a little bit more privacy. It's not that you have your own compartment though. Obviously, also between the back ends of the seats you can store quite a lot of luggage. Along this journey I was traveling in one of the airline style seats. You won't find that many of them, but they are there, thank goodness. I like this most. You have a sturdy tray table in the seat in front of you, a footrest, and there's a small litter bin. The legroom is just really generous. Some free coffee is also included, and also my breakfast was included. You find a button at the side of the seat you can use to recline, and even if I fully recline these seats, I have more than enough legroom. A small breakfast was included as well at the moment I took this train. Well, don't expect too much, you get some information about the food as well. Basically 2 snacks, a hand sanitizer, towel, water and a coffee. And one thing is for sure, they make sure everything is Italian here. So you get an espresso and everything is with Italian brands. By the way, in the train there's also someone present to collect garbage, what's very useful. Although most seats do have a small litter bin, it's not that big, so this is very much appreciated. Now let's go to the most fancy part on board of this train. And that is executive class. This is located at coach number 1. In this carriage you will only find 10 seats. So this space is huge, and the seats here, well, it's really next level luxury. This might even be better than in a Chinese high-speed train. Well, I cannot compare this. I only saw this on board of Chinese high-speed trains and also only here. Traveling here was, well, just too pricey. Executive class doesn't just come with more luxury and fancy seats, but also more service, obviously. There's even a small meeting room that can host up to 5 people to have meetings on board of this train. I mean, how cool is that? Because this carriage hosts so little people, traveling with a lot of luggage is absolutely not a problem over here. Seat numbers can be found right next to the seats, and because there's so much distance between the seats, within the seats you find a small table you can fold out. This table seems less sturdy than the tables in business class, for example. And this here is a small meeting room. It's actually kind of cool to have a meeting on board of a moving train, don't you think so? Well, let me know in the comments. For now, I'll just show you some views from the train between Paris and Lyon along the oldest high-speed line within Europe. And while I do this, I share my honest opinion about these trains. To start off, about the website for buying train tickets. At the beginning of this video I mentioned Trainline. And the reason is easy, because on the Trainline website you find also tickets, for example, of the state-owned railway company of France, what is SNCF, and even some other companies. And in the future this might even be more. So therefore Trainline is the best website to book train tickets in France. And my personal opinion about these trains, I like these trains. They are different from what their friends expected as competition, because this is a more full service brand. They obviously do also serve people with a smaller budget in the standard class, what is by far the biggest part of this train. But don't forget, there are also people who like to travel in more luxury. And those people are willing to spend money. I mean, this also brings some more commercial opportunities for these railway lines, what should also be used, I think. Even though I have to say that the seats in executive class do take in really a lot amount of space for a small number of seats. Maybe Aereo is doing better on that. What is absolutely great and what a French state-owned railway company should learn from, there's much more information available in English in these trains. I mean, France was not my personal destination, for example, during this trip. That was Morocco. But basically, if you're traveling from and to Spain, the UK, but also on quite some routes, for example, between the Netherlands and Belgium and Switzerland, France is just a country where you travel through. And therefore having information in English is even more important than you might think at first for a country like France. And even though my overall conclusion is, I like these Frecciarossa trains, they're doing a great job. And they also make the French a little bit more aware, because they also start to focus more on full service. What I don't like, or where I have at least very mixed feelings about, is that this is being operated by a state-owned railway company of a neighboring country. And even though some competition on especially cross-bordering lines, for example between Paris and Milan, is very good, if you travel further than Paris or Milan, you need certain passenger rights that might guarantee your connection and whatever. So in that sense I have very mixed feelings about this, and I don't know if this is benefiting international railway passengers after all. I mean, I saw the developments between the French and the Spanish state-owned railway company, and that's not really in favor of international passengers at this moment, at least not in my opinion. Also, Eurail and Interrail is not accepted on these trains, within France, yet at least. However, I do have to add up to this. The same thing counts, for example, for the WeGo product, that's also not usable with Interrail and Eurail. And if there's one company that started competition abroad, then it's the French state-owned railway company SNCF. But I'm not gonna dig in that for now. For now we end up this video. Here we are, Lyon Part 2. The train was actually a bit early over here. And we didn't travel on the full speed for, at least not for the entire route. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. I definitely like these trains. I think it's good to have some competition on the French railways. Even though I also have, well, some other feedback about it. For example, Interrail is not valid, but maybe I already told that in the video, and otherwise I just do it now. Anyway, I hope you liked this video, or this has been helpful to you. If so, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate that. If you have any questions, if you want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment. And if you like to see more trip reports about more sustainable ways of transportation, the main focus for this channel is long distance and or cross-bordering traveling, then hit that subscribe button if you haven't done this already. Before we really end up this video, one last thing. And for this, let's take a closer look on the environmental impact if you're traveling on this route by train, car, and believe it or not, I still noticed flights on this route. And the reason why I'm saying it like this is because France, they made a ban on flights that are doable with a 2.5 hour train ride. But I still noticed flights on this route. Anyway, the travel time is from city center to city center, and if you look at this, the train is the absolute winner on travel time, comfort, and especially the environmental impact. The flight ban for short-haul flights in France. It's a really nice symbolic thing, and people are talking like it, oh yes, this is going to change the world. But really, train rides for only 2.5 hours. Well, I think they should change this to at least 4.5 hours. Just at least travel destinations where you can go to by train under 4.5 hours. Don't have flights on those routes. And especially not domestically. Internationally, this is a more difficult topic. I understand this as well. Anyway, there's a long way to go when it comes to this, but we're getting there slowly. This graph shows the environmental impact, and I think it all speaks for itself. For now, that's really it for this video. If you are interested in other videos, of course you can subscribe and then you can see the new videos coming up. You can also find other videos on this channel and something else. In the description of this video on YouTube you find a link to a map, and on this map you can also find all videos, but then on a map. See you on the next video.